Hello and welcome back to season 4 of Why This Film. We have reached our 4th season and we are kicking it off, getting a little bit spooky with our first episode as we discuss 2004's The Phantom of the Opera. So we are recording this in a Cafe Nero. So there's a lot of sort of background noise, which I'm sorry if that's quite distracting. So apologies for the sound, but hopefully you'll still enjoy the discussion that we have. So the IMDb breakdown is: a young soprano becomes the obsession of a disfigured and murderous musical genius who lives beneath the Paris Opera House. Enjoy!
You watched it so many times before and now you're gonna watch it again. But it's been so many years since you last saw it and now you show it to your friends and they're like, What?
What am I watching?
What? Why this film?
Hello, so I'm joined today by Aylis. Hello.
Hello.
Lovely to have you. And your chosen movie is, of course, The Phantom of the Opera 2004.
Very good film.
It is. So what's your relationship with this movie?
Well, I first saw it with my auntie and my mum. I was around my auntie's house. She lives in Leicester. And we were just talking about films that had recently come out, and she got it on DVD and she asked if we wanted to watch it because she knew that it was into theatre. And I said yeah, and I have like this vivid memory of her going, but it is scary, so don't get worried, don't panic. And I'm like, this is fine, I'm 8 years old.
Yeah, I know what's up.
I'm fine. And that's how I first got into it, and subsequently it's what caused my love for musical theatre.
Oh, amazing.
I ended up using it in my interview for my uni degree.
Oh, cool.
Whereas everyone else was talking about like sophisticated theatre stuff, and I was like, I like theatre because of Phantom.
You are not the only one, believe me.
So yeah, that's like, it really was a turning point in my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. So we had the 2 albums of Les Mis and The Phantom of the Opera in the house, and I would always listen to the album, but we would always get to that bit where it's like, a toad, madam, perhaps it is you who is the toad.
Yeah.
And she started making that weird noise in her voice. Freaked me the fuck out, and I would turn it off every single time. Then the movie came out, and every single Sunday for about a year, I watched this movie, and I was like, this movie is life. Then I went to see the show, and I was suddenly like, this movie sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, it sucks so bad.
It's so bad, but it's still so good.
And I was watching it earlier, and I was just like, oh, I love it though. Like, it's so bad, but because the music's still there and the music is timeless. Like, it's still running in both Broadway and UK for a reason.
And there's certain things in it that aren't really in the show, like the flashbacks or the flash forward. Sorry.
And some stuff I would argue is like it takes away the mystery. Like, I used to, as a kid, I loved seeing him put the like whatever in her drink, so we know that's why she starts making those noises. But then as I grew up, I was like, it's better to not know because it's scarier. And like, it keeps the mystery.
There's like certain things as well that I do like seeing versus the theatre version. Like, the way he plays the Phantom is completely different, I think, to how he's played on the show. Like, he's so much more like intimate and less like, he's angry with the world, but not in like a shouty sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I have a real problem with Gerard Butler's singing.
Oh yeah,
I think it's awful.
Oh yeah, agreed.
But I think you're right, and I think partly that his interpretation might have been due to the fact that Emmy Rossum was like 18.
She was 16.
Fucking 16. Are you kidding
It's so
me?
disgusting.
Gross. What the fuck?
And
Andrew?
Raoul was 30, the guy that played him, and Gerard Butler was 34.
It's
It's
like,
so disgusting.
It's so gross. It's just like making out with both of them. And it's probably why there's less sort of sexual undertones.
Yeah, I thought that as well.
Which is good, but like...
Yeah, at the same time, it's like, there's certain scenes that are meant to be like, oh, this is so intimate, I don't want to be watching.
Yeah, it's creepy. So it's interesting how this movie was, as I'm sure you know, Andrew Lloyd Webber picked Joel Schumacher of Batman and Robin fame to direct this, and the 2 of them were like not allowing anyone else in on the project, and as such
You get really strange filmic choices.
Yeah.
You get really odd, like, it's not like a movie musical, even though they've just come back in by that point with Chicago and Moulin Rouge. And they're clearly trying to steal from different things, but it's not working with the format that they have.
It's also a very complicated musical, I think.
It is.
So I think you need to I think maybe if they'd done it now, it would work a bit more.
Well, we've now got the Live at the Royal Albert Hall sort of 25th anniversary
on DVD.
Literally.
I love it.
It's perfection. So it's kind of like we don't need a movie because we've got
a live recording.
Exactly, and that's the better version because they choose to not sing some of the lines in this movie.
Yeah, and it's weird.
And it's fine because I know what you're doing. You're trying to not make it like an opera, like Les Mis is. You're trying to make it, and this is really. You're trying to make it more relatable. But the lines rhyme still.
And at the same time, there's an effect that's added by the words being sung.
Yes.
Which, I was watching it and I was like, I don't feel the same. There's something now missing from that word not being sung.
100%.
There's now less emotion behind it. And don't get me wrong, I've got a degree in acting, I know what should be done.
Yeah.
And it's I'm not feeling that.
Yeah.
And if I was acting along beside them,
I feel, because I wrote this down as well, I feel like they lose the energy from a live performance.
Yeah.
And I guess you can argue that that's what Tom Hooper was trying to capture in his 2010 Les Mis.
Yeah.
That's a whole different podcast. But that's the thing. It really... Some of my favourite moments in the musical are the notes scenes, which are often in the manager's office. And in here, they decided to have them in random corridors, massive shots, no close-up, really strange choices to convey this narrative that's not being done very well. But there's a bit where, in the 25th live version, they're like, let me see it, and that's everyone singing, and then one of them goes, please, and it's so dramatic, and everything comes to a head, and you're just like, oh, what's happening, what is this letter going to say? And in the movie, the four people, there's a pause, and then they all go, let me see it, and then there's another pause,
so
and
dark.
he goes, please, and it just it's just so flat.
Completely takes away from it.
Yeah.
It's like that throughout the whole film, and they changed. What annoyed me was they changed the chandelier scene around. I get why they did it, right? It still works where they put it, but not as well as the show.
Yeah.
And when the reveal of the chandelier as well, that to me is so boring in the film.
Oh my god.
It's meant to be this massive grand thing.
It gave me fucking chills when I saw it on stage.
And I know there's no way they're going to be able to reproduce that in a film.
But why have it?
Yeah.
This is the thing, it's these filmic choices, and someone else makes this point as well, they have this whole prologue, and the whole point of the prologue, it doesn't even make sense in the show.
No.
Do you know what I mean? But the point of it is to be we've got this set piece of the chandelier, we're going to plant it so we can pay it off at the end of Act 1, and it's enormous, and it's what it's known for. Everyone goes to see Phantom to watch the chandelier drop.
Yeah.
And you're right, they don't do it at the right point, because it's a film, so there's no interval. And then they still build it up to then not use it properly. And so much stuff's happening when they finally do use it.
It's kind of taken away from it. I'm thinking, oh my god, I hope these people are going to get out quickly. There's a fire.
yeah, literally. Someone's been kidnapped, shit's going down, someone's dead. There's enough going on without having the chandelier drop. And because it's a movie, the chandelier dropping is not as exciting as it is live.
No, and it just kind of, even if the actual chandelier itself is kind of boring to look at as well.
Yeah.
It's not it's meant to be this massive, beautiful, grand thing. And it's just kind of okay.
It's just another fucking prop.
Literally.
And on a movie set.
Literally.
And the whole, again, I loved it because I'd never seen it before. Before I saw the show, in the movie I loved this prologue because the wind was blowing and the swell came in,
effective.
and it was wow. And then so basically in the movie what they do is it's black and white, and it Wizard of Oz's itself, and it goes into colour, and we sort of remove all the dust from the theatre and bring it
it
back
gets
in
clean
time.
again.
Yeah, basically they clean it up in a Snow White scene with no people. But in the show, it just has, because they're bringing in the set pieces and they're bringing in costumes and they're opening curtains and it's so grand and theatrical, and it just doesn't translate well to the movie. And if they just got people on board this project that knew what they were fucking doing, who saw Batman and Robin and was like, yes, that's the
person's
man.
going to make Phantom of the Opera, and it's going to be amazing.
What the hell? Like,
You can clearly tell as well with like the extra fighting scenes that were added, like at the cemetery. Why is there all of a sudden a sword fight?
a sword fight to show that he's fully human when we're meant to think he's this like weird ghost thing.
like-
And also, Raoul wins. Raoul wins the sword fight. He's about to kill the Phantom, and Christina's like,
Don't
no,
do it.
no, don't do it.
Not
And
like
then-
this.
Oh my god. And then the next scene, Raoul's like, I figured out how to catch him. And it's like, yeah, fucking punch him in the face, clearly. Like, that's what you did 5 minutes
Like,
ago.
you could have just stabbed him and it would have all been over
And it would have been over with.
Your fiance would have been like safe.
People wouldn't be
And
dead.
spoiler alert, the whole of Love Never Dies would have
Oh,
happened.
mate.
Like,
Mate. But going back to that grave thing, so even though Emmy Rossum is 16 and the two men are 30, she's the one that dies first because Raoul is at the old opera house collecting antiques to put on her fucking
notice
gravestone.
as well, the brand deal in it, Swarovski or however it's said. It's just randomly there. Like,
And the Phantom's clearly been to Swarovski because on her grave, bum bum bum, is a red rose with a black ribbon and like a Swarovski diamond on it as well.
He's getting
So
that
it's like,
coin.
oh, he still like fancies her even though she's dead.
If she died in America, why is she buried in France?
Mate, why is the Phantom still following her? Why? How did she die before these two men? Like, what the fuck? Oh my
It's
god.
just,
Why
like,
is Madame
ridiculous.
Jury aged like 10 years whilst Raoul is aged like
I mean,
30
I assumed
years?
that was Meg.
Yeah, no, it's Madame Jury.
What?
It's Miranda Richardson. Yeah, it's fucking Madame Jury.
I thought it was Meg.
Nah.
Why is she only aged like that? They're doing a
Why?
Dumbledore then. From Fantastic
So-
Beasts.
Yeah, literally. It's so he's going from 20 to 100 in 10 years. Honestly, the whole movie, the choices that are made, but and yet, as we've both said, it's undeniably still watchable.
Yeah, they're very watchable.
And until you see the show, it's really good because you're being introduced to these characters and this music that's really swelling and gothic and romantic in a way.
One thing I don't like is that you kind of figure out who is Christine very quickly. Whereas in the show, you're like, oh my god, who is Christine? Like, there's so many people that look the same. Which I assume is done on purpose. But you don't know unless you know who
Because
it
she's
is.
just
Like,
a chorus girl.
yeah, unless you know you're going to watch the Sierra Baguettes,
Yeah, of
and
course.
you're watching it and you see it and you're like, oh, okay, there she is.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna know.
Stupid things. So like the movie and musical open with them rehearsing for this show about Hannibal going over the mountains with the elephants, and it's set in like Rome and like all of the sort of props of Roman. And Carlotta, played here by Minnie Driver, fabulously, I would say. Throws a diva tantrum and leaves, and Madame Giry is like, Christine Dyer can sing it, sir. So not only does Emmy Rossum come up with her frail little bird voice, and everyone's like, wow, give her the lead role, which is dumb as hell and makes me laugh every time. In the show, she's kitted out in this sort of Hannibal-esque outfit.
Beautiful.
It's fucking beautiful. It's
And they
great.
just stick her in a white dress.
And in this one, even though they're doing Hannibal, the musical, and we've been rehearsing that all day, that evening she's in a Cinderella dress with a horse and carriage behind her. And I'm like, so when did you change the opera?
And apparently, that dress is based off a painting that Andrew Lloyd Webber has in his house.
For fuck's sake, Andrew,
So
that's not how
that's
stuff
just what
works.
he wanted.
You can't just do that, Andrew.
No. And like the transition, the way they do it in the musical is they have like a mirror image of the audience on the back wall. So Christine has her change and you see it done while she's singing, and then her glorious moment is when she turns around and faces the audience. And like we're watching from behind us, we're facing the audience. And I think that's amazing. And it's like I've never seen anything else done like that before.
It's clever.
And
the show is, it like, as I say, it's been running for such a long time because it really pulled together all this stage magic and all this design, and it was like a work in progress, and they plagiarized a bunch of stuff, but they got it out first, but it works, and even though it's flawed, it works.
Yeah.
This movie is just flawed.
Yeah. Like the same scene in the movie, she just stands there, like there's this whole intricate dance that she's meant to do with the scarf, and it's stunning, and I get it's like a very kind of intricate, kind of sexual dance with the scarf, and I get maybe they took it out because of how old Emmy was, but it's still
it still just doesn't make sense that the opera has suddenly been changed to something completely different. The aesthetic has changed, and the choice that they've made for this big moment where she becomes the lead is to just like turn the camera around once, and she's in a different dress, and no one's even saying like, oh my god, yeah, brilliant, put her as the lead. She just starts singing, and then she's singing that evening, and like no one's been like, yes, this is a good idea.
No.
It just sort of happens.
They just do it.
It's just flat and lacking in so much energy.
It's so dull. And do you know what annoyed me as well? Like, obviously, aside the whole what Meg does later on in life, they take away her, like, hype best friend by them.
Yeah.
Come on, Meg's her hype woman. Don't take that away from her.
Literally, Meg is so boring and flat, and like...
And I feel sorry for her, because she's a good character in the theatre. But she's just kind of, like, boring and she only gets like really one scene,
and also like she's the first one in the musical to get given the line, he's here, the phantom of the
big line,
and it's huge, and it's spoken, not sung in the movie, and it's just to Christine, and it's Meg going, he's here, the Phantom of the Opera, and you're like, wow, I'm hyped, I'm super hyped for this bloke.
It's meant to be scary, it's meant to be terrifying, and instead you're like, oh.
There is no mystery because they show you everything that the Phantom's doing at every point. So before the chandelier comes down, before the end of Act 1, a person dies, and in the show it is masterful. They put on this ballet, and the music's getting faster and faster, and it sounds edgy and dangerous.
And you see like a slight shadow things happening, and you're like, but if you catch the shadows, you're like, oh, what's going on? But 9 times out of 10, you're going to miss the shadows because you're concentrating on what's happening.
Exactly, but you can hear the music's making you more tense.
Yeah.
And then a man gets dropped and he's hanged from the rafters, and everyone's screaming, and it's dramatic. In the movie, we watch the Phantom like Tom and Jerry, this man, along the rafters. Like they're literally like mimicking, like it's literally like a fucking cartoon sketch.
It's so bad. And then I feel like everyone's reactions were like a little like, come on, a man's just like dying from the thing. Like the audience are kind of just sitting there like, oh my god.
It's so dumb. And then they run up to the roof to have their big love song. And the bit before that love song is again one of my favourite parts of the musical. The whole like
that love song is
brought me here. And it's so dramatic. And what they've chosen to do in the movie is have them just, they clearly built this set of the opera house, and they were like, this is our priority. This is what we need to like show everyone, because they're just walking through corridors and up staircases singing this song, and we don't get to see their faces, we don't really see them interacting, we don't see the emotion, we don't see
like
fear.
They're just about to propose, and like she's terrified. He's meant to like relax her and calm her down, and they're just
all we're seeing is like, oh look, some masks that are used in the show, and a curtain and some ropes. Like, we're just seeing the set,
literally. And then did you know the Phantom, Gerard Butler wasn't even in that scene there. He was CGI'd into that scene.
Fuck off.
He wasn't even there when they filmed it. They just put him in there. It's like,
that's so stupid.
Why? And he's just kind of like, also, how did he get there first?
Yeah, literally.
He's like creeping behind the back of a statue listening, and I figured there's only one way up to the roof.
Yeah.
And you see Christine and Raoul
he like
going there the whole time.
there. The minute he'd like hung the guy, he was like, gotta get to the roof, gotta get to the roof.
This is where they're gonna go.
Like, how did he know they were gonna get to the roof? And it's a real contrast from the show, where there's like a wonderful reveal where people actually gasp if they're not expecting it, where this massive sweeping love song happens, and it's all focused on Raoul and Christine.
It's stunning.
and then he appears from like above them, and everyone's like, oh my god, he was there the whole time. What the fuck?
Yeah.
We literally see him. They keep cutting to him during the love song.
That song is so important in their relationship.
Yeah.
And like moving the story forward, because you like before it's kind of like, oh okay, these two are like childhood sweethearts, and it's like, okay, well now they're actually engaged.
Yeah.
You see how much they love each other. You're taking it away. Like, you're taking that away.
Literally, and you're giving it to nothing. You're just, you're not making the Phantom mysterious and threatening.
No.
You're not. Are you trying to elicit sympathy by having him like look mopey behind a statue that he's not even that well hidden behind? Like,
Also, he doesn't. He just looks like. I feel like his expressions weren't great in this film, because when he's just there, he just kind of looks like vaguely mopey. Like, whereas in the musical, he's like angry.
Yeah.
He's so like. The only way I can put it, he's like lightning. He's so angry.
Yeah, and every Phantom has a different like way they play it, but it's always high stakes and high emotions.
It's always heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Always heartbreaking. Where in this one, I was like, just stop being a creep.
Yeah, literally. Fuck off, she's like 12.
Literally.
Oh,
Do you know what I also read as well? Ramin Karimli is the only person to have ever played her 3 love interests. He was her dad in the film.
Oh, hilarious.
I know, I'm like, mate. And he lives near me,
weird.
so I'm always like,
Oh,
please
nice.
don't run into him.
That's amazing.
I know.
Oh man. Yeah,
It's
so
just...
the Phantom is called such because of the deformity of his face. In the book, he's written to look skull-like with no nose and gaunt and frightening. In the musical, they spend like 3 hours in makeup getting this like real half of his face like completely scarred up. Gerard Butler looks like he's been maybe stung by a bee.
Yeah.
Like, maybe he like
Completely.
scratched himself, got a bit of an infection.
Yeah.
There's fucking nothing wrong with his
No.
face when that
No.
reveal happens.
No, and like, if you watch it in the musical, you're genuinely like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like his brain is showing.
Yeah.
Like,
Half of his brain, like you see his skull, whereas in the film you're like, did someone throw some like hot water in your face?
yeah. You just want to go sleep that off, take some
Like,
ibuprofen.
put some foundation on your face and you're fine.
Honestly, it's pathetic, and like, but the thing is, they don't exactly play. Love Never Dies hadn't been written yet, so they had no motivation to make him more sympathetic. There's no way that they elicit sympathy from him in a massive way. So why try and make him attractive when it comes to the end? Once you've established that he's murdered several
Like,
people,
his hair is awful as well. Like he's meant to be like have hardly any hair, and he just kind of looks like it's just wearing a bad wig.
It's just bleached, and just a full head of bleached
It's
hair
like
that's a bit
he
greasy.
bleached his hair, it went wrong, some of it fell out. Honestly,
Literally.
it's so bad.
It's pathetic.
Like, the one thing I do think they did well is the whole cave scene with the water, because when you're comparing that to the book is so like, for anyone who hasn't read the book, he has this whole like torture chamber, and if I'm not mistaken, he can make it like really hot. I don't know.
And he's got like mirror mazes.
Yeah,
all
it's
of
like
that
a
stuff.
complete torture chamber, and that obviously they can't do that in the musical. There's just no way it would be possible.
Yeah.
But in the film, they managed to put that through because like they start flooding it, Raoul nearly drowns. There's like
it's really interesting to see them attempt that bit from the book, and it's really fun to watch. But again, within the movie, he gets out of it in like 2
really
seconds
easily.
flat.
There's
so
no
what was the point?
No, there's no like
we all know he needs
life
to go
risk.
save Christine.
Yeah.
So why would he drown here?
Yeah.
Like, my God.
That's the only thing. It's a nice attempt, but it didn't work still. But it was like, you know, you're never going to see that in the show.
Yeah.
So it's nice to just see like a little nudge to the book.
Definitely, and this is, I think, what they needed more of. They needed to make it a separate entity from the show rather than just try and film the show, because they did that at the Royal Albert Hall and it was perfect.
Yeah, and like if you're going to make changes where they've changed some scenes around and they've added like flash forwards in black and white, it's going to be, it can't be like 50% different from the show.
Yeah.
It needs to be its whole other thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's not going to work, and it didn't.
Yeah.
There's no point having scenes where you're seeing like, oh, Christine's dead and he's taking roses to her grave and whatever, and like changing some scenes around and who says what. but still
just trying to do a carbon copy of the show.
You do one or the other.
Yeah, literally. And I think it could have really worked if they had given it to someone that was going to make drastic changes, draw perhaps more from the book.
Yeah. Because in the book, the Phantom's terrifying.
Yeah.
He's like Christine shows no emotion towards him. She clearly, in the film and the show, you feel like, okay, there's maybe something, maybe it's sympathy, who knows what, but there's some sort of
more of a connection.
Yeah. Versus in the book, he's just a terrifying monster.
In the book he's like a stalker and she's just caught in his spell. In the movie, they do really try and push that sort of spell thing. She always seemed a bit hypnotised when he was around, and it was kind of nice because it wasn't overtly sexual because Emmy Rossum was 11. But then in the show, it depends on your Christines and your Phantoms. And I would say the only bad thing about the live 25th anniversary showing is that Love Never Dies was doing its sort of tour at the time.
Yeah.
So they really push the love story between the Phantom and Christine to the point where she doesn't want to leave at the end, and Ramin Karimnu gives her a nod to for her consent to send her off to Raoul, which is dumb and stupid, and I hate it.
And I think they pushed it a bit more as well because obviously Sierra and Ramin were the two that were in Love Never Dies.
Yes,
so
definitely.
There was that that narrative where the two people that played the same characters were going to carry on and continue to play them.
Yeah.
And that relationship needed to be proven almost.
Yeah. And it's fine. It doesn't detract from how good the performance is, but it's just a shame that that's what they were really pushing for at the time. Whereas, when I saw it on stage most recently, my Christine was fuming at the Phantom, and she was absolutely in love with Raoul, and it was such a joy to see a different interpretation of the same song. And that's what's so great about live theatre, where these different actors come in and give their own takes on them. And what's always very nice as well is to see how the different Phantoms choose to portray the kiss at the end. Do they get super involved with it? Do they find it terrifying? Because it's a turning point.
It is, and he says a line where he says about how his deformity has taken away he can't ever have that human pleasure interaction kind of thing, and a lot of people take it as he can't have sex, which is not. He's just he's so deformed that people don't tend to love him, which is sad, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's the way he is. And then he gets kissed, and I went and saw it back in April again, and he was terrified, because it's the first proper interaction he's ever had. That's affection.
The sort of line that he does is, the world showed no compassion to me, and this is Christine showing compassion to him.
For the first time he's ever had it.
In the movie, Raoul beat him in a sword fight, was going to kill him, and then, I don't know, let's call it, showed compassion and didn't kill him. So
and
for
also,
him, half an hour later to turn around and say the world showed no compassion to me. Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
They just did.
Madame Giry freed you as a child and looked after you and fed you because clearly you're still alive.
This is the other thing, the and what probably used all of his funds and salary from the opera house that he was charging the managers to buy all of his shit down for his lair. And this is the thing, the choices and changes that they did make then meant that the story that they were originally telling doesn't make sense anymore. So no one thought about it. No one thought about the implications of what they were doing and how everything just goes against everything else. It's so dumb.
He's there's no way that he's going to be receiving compassion from maybe Raoul. He just does it because his fiance tells him not to, but it's still compassion because you're either going to die or you're not going to die.
Yeah.
And he'd been freed. That's a lot of compassion. He'd been freed from being essentially a monkey in a zoo.
Yeah.
And then he's just
Scar. Look at the freak.
Literally, he's in a cage with a bag over his head. No one actually sees the freak because of the bag on his head.
Oh my god, it's so dumb. And you're right, Madame Giry, that they've given this whole backstory where Madame Giry is the reason he's taken base in the opera house and has set up this life for himself, and she's very understanding and complimentary of him.
Yeah. But then it's and then what? What happened between what you've shown us and now? How did he get so angry with the world?
Exactly, because he was rescued and given a base and flourished and looked after, even though because she's like 12 when she rescues him, and then we assume she goes on to grow up, marry, have a child, work at the opera house.
Yeah.
Like, would she just be like, sorry husband, it's my Sunday night, gotta go feed my phantom in the lair?
Literally. And he's clearly educated as well.
Yeah, so did she teach him how to like read? Because I doubt the freak show did it. Like, it was a lovely addition, and again, as a kid, when I was watching it, I was like, awesome, I love it.
That's so cute.
And then later on, when I grew up, I was like, oh no, I hate it.
Yeah, like, either give us like a full backstory of how he got where he is,
which can be found in lots of different novel adaptations of the source material.
Yeah. Or don't give us any, like, leave it a mystery.
And leave it a mystery, exactly. And surely it's more exciting for it to be a mystery,
easily.
for him to go down. And he's the original, like, 1930s version has him as one of the biggest horror monsters. He's up there with Frankenstein's monster and Dracula.
Yeah.
And yet this Gerard Butler version is a nothing.
He's downplayed to be like the guy that you want to be with but can never have, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's almost like we're pushing that sort of mid-2000s emo aesthetic with the red rose and the black ribbon and that whole sort of like gothic romance vibe that was coming back in for a bit. That, you know, I was fully on board with.
Yeah, like
from the ages of like 12 to 15.
Yeah.
I loved me some League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and I wanted to dress like Mina Harker, that Victorian gothic steampunk. They were tying into all of that. But it's dumb.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Like, even in the musical, there's not really like that much. The only grand kind of things are the candles and what the candles sit on, whereas like, which in itself is a whole funny thing. And I'm like, you're watching them come out of the water in the movie, and I'm like, how are the candles alive?
Right, literally, the candles in the movie don't make any sense.
Are they electric?
In the show, they come out of the thing because it's a set change, and we're now in a different place.
And it's a very well done set change.
And it's magical, and it looks grand and dramatic.
Yeah.
In the movie, they've got the Jean Cocteau candles with the arms in the wall from the original Beauty and the Beast homage, that later on when Meg goes down the same passage, they're not there.
Yeah.
So what, were they someone's imagination? Were they actually there? Whose arms were they if they were actually there? Like, what's going on? He's not magic. We see him not do any magic, so we know that either literally happened or it was in someone's imagination. And then you're right, and then we get into the lair, having taken a pony and a boat.
Somehow.
Where is this lair? Like the neighbouring county? Like,
the lair is meant to be like in the actual opera house
it's just
in France.
the bottom, the basement.
It's like a lake underneath the basement.
Yeah.
Which is where the lair is meant to take place. So they're halfway in a lake, rowing the little boat, and then candles appear out the water.
And you're right, like, what?
It just looks ridiculous.
They did it because that's what happens in the
Yeah,
show.
but again,
but they
this
didn't
isn't the show.
think
This
about-
isn't a set change.
Exactly.
They have the
It's a fucking movie.
They have like the magicalism of doing a film.
You have so many resources at hand. You could have done anything. You could have made his face look fucking awesome. You could have because it was 2004. Gollum was in existence. You could have used that fucking CGI to do something great.
Prosthetics. If they had the prosthetics to do Phantom on stage here in Broadway
And on
touring
film
shows
in the 30s.
in the
looked
30s,
amazing.
looked amazing. Then they had the capability to make him look terrifying in the film.
Literally.
But they didn't because they wanted to appeal to a wider audience.
Which is
clearly
which audience?
And the thing is as well, they've got a big enough audience. Phantom is still running 31, 32 years now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason. All those people are going to go watch the film. You're going to have young theatre kids that you see on Instagram going to go watch the film.
Yeah.
Like, there's a big enough audience. It's not going to be the next Marvel film.
No way.
But they're two separate audiences.
Yeah, it's such a good point.
It's to me, it was very clear that they were trying to downplay the scariness of it all, the sexiness, but that's a different thing. To me, to appeal to a different audience.
Do you think this movie was just a moneymaker?
Oh, easily.
It needed to be a passion project, and then it could have been
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
and it could have appealed to an even wider audience because you know, there's going to be a bunch of people that wouldn't have... I remember when Sweeney Todd came out, and people were super pumped because they were like, Tim Burton, it looks kind of black and white, excited. They sat down and they started singing, and people were like, WTF, mate? Because they didn't realise it was a musical. Everyone knows The Phantom of the Opera as a musical.
Easily. And the thing is as well, like, going back to the Passion Project, for the best example I can think of is The Greatest Showman. Look how much passion went into that. You can clearly tell Hugh Jackman loved it.
Exactly.
And look how successful it was.
It was so ridiculously successful.
Like, and
it's based... There is a musical that was shit.
Yeah.
And so that's what they didn't do. They didn't take the shit musical and put it into a movie.
No, they made it
They
their own.
took the concept and made it into a great film. It was super successful.
Like, and there's a reason why there's like been like petitions online for it to become a musical again. But they would have to change it in a way because obviously film can't go straight into theatre.
Exactly, and like The Greatest Showman, I think by it being a film first, it definitely is, as you're saying, it helped itself by doing that because it used film magic to its advantage, whereas The Phantom was just trying to paste a medium onto a different platform, and it just didn't fit.
It doesn't work.
I mean, they could have gotten away with it as well, I think, if they had picked a better Phantom and picked a better Christine.
Yeah, like, I know Christine's meant to be like 16. I mean, I think she's 18 in the theatre show. I don't think she's 16.
She's not
She's
old.
not as young. No, but she's not as young as she is in the movie.
Yeah, she's not a child.
No, she's not.
And even if she is, Nancy's 12 in the Book of Oliver.
Yeah.
It was a very good idea in the musical to not make her 12.
Yeah.
Because like,
No
one wants to
in
see
the show,
that.
it's kind of vague how old she is.
Yeah.
You can clearly tell that she's not old, but she's not, like, again, a child.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at Christine and be like, she's the same age as my younger sister.
Yeah.
That creeps me out.
Yeah,
I was watching it last night and going, my sister is 16 years old, Christine is 16 years old. I'm watching Christine get touched up, and I'm getting, like, my older sister angry feelings coming out where I just want to protect this child from what is actually probably a predator.
This is the thing, and I think there's a story within that that's valid and part of the whole Phantom thing, where it's not a romance, it's almost a cautionary tale of this poor girl being groomed and people not believing her. It's a mystery thriller horror for all of those reasons, but because it's sweeping and epic, people want to inject, and because Sierra Burgess and Rami Kurumi are hot and kind of fancy each other, like, people want to inject this side of it,
and
which is what they're trying to put a flavour of in the movie, but it's not coming across because your actors can't do it. Like,
and what, like,
pick one.
I don't know about you, but it really angers me when people go, they're on, like, Team Phantom. I'm like, no, this guy,
a fucking paedophile.
He's a paedophile, he's a creep. He stalks this young woman, makes her think that he's her father.
Her dead
father. And then, in literally one scene, she goes from thinking he's her dead father to, like, getting very clearly touched up by him and happily accepting it. Like, do you think he's still your dead father? Like,
Literally.
you happy getting touched up by your dead father?
It's
like,
really interesting because I would argue that the show puts out a similar narrative, but again, it sort of gets away with it more because it's sweeping and epic and it's a musical and more like giving it the benefit of the doubt. And obviously, at the end, he learns the error of his ways and goes and loses.
Yeah.
And even though he loses in this movie, it doesn't feel like he has.
No, it's like he goes from being angry, making her choose who she's going to be with, who she's going to love, to then all of us like kissing her, and then he's just like, okay, bye. Like, I got what I wanted, bye.
Yeah, whereas the original narrative is that her compassionate kiss shows him the error of his ways. He learns a valuable lesson that day, and he suddenly realises what he's done and what he's become, and he's like, oh my god, go, don't let them find you, I'll go.
Yeah, and in the movie he's like,
go. And then he goes
go.
away and dies.
Yeah, in the movie he's like, go.
Yeah.
Don't let them find you. And in the musical he's like screaming it, like terrified.
And again, that's also up to interpretation. Ramin's very emotive in that moment, but other actors have done it where they've been is frightened or emotional or sad, but there's choices there, and Gerard Butler made none. None of them made. It's like they weren't given their own character breakdown. No. They were just taught the songs the day before, came to set, sang them, went home again.
Yeah, literally. And I read somewhere that neither Emmy or Gerard Butler watched the show beforehand, and I do think that's like, as a person who has done acting, I understand why they didn't, but I think it would have helped them a lot if they did, because they would have seen
that energy.
they would have seen choices that were made by multiple people. They would have seen how those choices affect the narrative and how they affect the storyline.
Exactly.
Whereas like going in and just saying your words,
it doesn't.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't work at all.
No.
Oh man.
It's just
Minnie Driver made choices. Minnie Driver came with a character.
Easily, like,
and that's why she stands out.
Yeah, personally, I don't like some of the choices,
No.
but they're amazing choices.
They're strong.
Yeah.
And at least then it allows you to have an opinion.
Oh,
Whereas
yeah.
Gerard and Emmy are just leaving you with like,
They're just kinda there.
I guess, yeah, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that meme where the woman's going with her hand up.
Yeah,
like,
I hated, even as a kid, I hated this before I'd even seen the show. They've got this whole Titanic thing going on where it's like the upper class and the lower class,
Yeah.
and they keep insisting that there's like a separation within the opera house that we should care about, even though we don't know any of the characters from the lower class.
No.
Fucking, we all saw Titanic, Joel Schumacher and Angela Weber.
Yeah.
No one gives a shit anymore. It's been like 10 years.
Literally.
And they have this running gag where even though she is the fucking lead soprano at an opera house, the prima donna, one may say, they're all of these like servants and maids are like shoving cotton in their ears to drown out Minnie Driver's voice because they're like, opera, am I right? And you're like, firstly, we're all here to watch the Phantom of the Opera. You want us to like opera. You don't want us to side with these characters and hate opera.
No.
Secondly, Minnie Driver, even though she was dubbed, Minnie Driver can sing. She was dubbed by a soprano for this movie.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't think she could reach the like high soprano. Maybe she could, I don't know, but I know she was dubbed because she sings the credits song instead. But like the woman dubbing Minnie Driver can sing soprano, can sing opera beautifully, very well.
Yeah.
We're at an opera house. Like, I hate the constant thing of people being like, fuck the opera, fuck the ballet, they're posh and they're weird and they're annoying and they sound funny. It's like, it's impressive and it's technical and it's good.
It's so hard.
Why are you putting this gag in? Who is it for?
Yeah, as well, like, the people watching the film are going to watch because they want to.
Yeah.
Why add characters that are completely unrelated?
We don't know these people's names.
No.
We don't know what they're
They're
doing.
like, there's no point to them existing.
Yeah.
Like, if they're gonna help her, Carlotta, that's fine. But that's all we need to see. We don't need to see them shoving it cotton in their ears, being rude.
It
Like,
doesn't make any sense. And
It
then
doesn't.
when she starts singing as well, one of the new managers makes a face. And I'm like, yo, lads, I tell you who she can sing better than Emmy fucking Rossum. Also, she's the prima donna at the
There's a
fucking
reason
opera
why
house
she's the
in
prima
Paris.
donna.
Exactly, she can sing. She's not a bad singer.
No.
Also, they wouldn't let her be the prima donna if she was a bad singer. So why are we trying to push out this joke that no one likes her singing?
Yeah, I
We
also
get that no
think-
one likes her as a person.
Which, okay,
But that's a separate thing.
that's not like, you can't
Hate it.
put talent and compare that to like personality, because if someone's got talent, they got talent.
Yeah.
They might not be like for example, Kanye West, I think he's got talent. I don't like them.
Yeah.
Like, horrible person.
Yeah. But
But
undeniable talent.
no, yeah, exactly. And like, I don't like how they made, or she made Carlotta. Like, there's a diva, and then there's like being a bit bitchy.
Yeah.
And I think she was a little bit more bitchy in the film.
She went very over the top. Like,
Yeah.
Carlotta's a really interesting character in that she can be played. She is a fucking diva.
Oh,
like,
God,
of
yeah.
course she is.
But she's a diva.
And she's like comic relief, and she's wonderful. She's a very big character within the
Yeah.
movie. But she's also human, and there's points where she's kind of frightened about what's happening, and like,
especially in the letter scene,
Yeah.
where she's confused and she's like, well, if you didn't send it,
yeah. She's still a human person, and
Yeah.
it's more interesting to make her a human person than just a Regina George strutting about the opera house.
because that's what they've made her, or Minnie has made her, just a slight Regina George who demands things being sprayed
And
in
I
her
get it, I
mouth.
get it, and I assume
It's an artistic
it
choice.
might have been Minnie Driver's choice. It might have been the studio or even the director trying to really push that contrast between the bland Emmy Rossum and the high Minnie Driver.
but they're so two
to
different
be like,
opposites.
oh look, we're meant to love Christine but hate Minnie Driver, and I'm like, I know who I'm siding with.
Yeah, they're two
The
very
interesting
different
one.
opposites, but it doesn't work. They
Yeah.
need to be either side of the middle, I think.
Yeah, they need to be human. They need
yeah.
real characters just because it's music.
Oh my god, and talking about this, there's another point where, you know, where Christine's scared, she's like, wow, I don't want to do this,
Oh,
please
mate.
don't make me do this.
Yep.
She's meant to be terrified, she's meant to be like begging him, like on her knees, holding his robes,
Yeah.
begging him. And in the film, she's like, please don't make me do this. I'm scared.
Honestly, so that song in the musical is called Notes/Twisted Every Way, and it is my favourite song.
There's a violin solo, or what is it?
Yeah.
Is it a violin?
Yeah,
It's a
strings.
violin solo, and it's known to be one of the hardest musical instrument solos in all of musical theatre.
Oh, wow, I didn't know
It's
that.
it's so complicated, and then in the film they have it, and then they put more music over it, and it's meant to be this haunting moment.
It's beautiful. They do another note scene, which in this movie they put in the masquerade scene, which doesn't make sense.
No.
And then she has this wonderful moment where she like turns down the hero's journey, as it were, only to then come back and agree to be in the opera. But you're right, they stick it in the chapel, which is a boring set piece.
Yeah.
She's speaking, not singing,
No.
and there's no emotion there, and I'm
No.
just like, you fucked it.
Like
Fuck the best
this
bit.
in the show, it clearly makes her more human.
Yeah.
It shows,
And it's so dramatic.
it makes her a rounded person.
It's swelling, and she's like, "Well,
And it's like, it makes everyone else scared.
Yeah.
It makes, when I'm sitting there listening to her.
it pushes Raoul to make
Yeah.
choices because he's like, it'll be war on you, and the music's like, dun 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 dun
it
dun
makes,
dun, dun.
it finally makes, because before Raoul was like, there is no Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Clearly sings it multiple times. He doesn't think that
This is
the
before
Phantom
he's
exists.
met him and had a sword fight. 'Cause
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in the show.
No.
So this is his.
No.
You're right. This is his crux of moment, being like, okay, there's a phantom.
There's,
let's
there's
fucking
clearly
do this.
something going on. Like, his fiancée is sobbing on the floor,
Yeah.
crying her eyes out, clearly, like, terrified for a reason. He's like, no, I've had enough. We're gonna kill him. This has to end.
And it's so dramatic and so enjoyable.
It makes it
And the
amazing. And then the
music.
film just shits on it.
They do. They may as well have just cut it.
There's no point in being in the
Yeah.
film because he's met him. He could have killed him already, and then he's like, he has this meant to be turning point of, oh, I'm gonna kill him, and it's like, no, that's already happened.
Literally.
What
Why
do you,
is this
like,
happening?
There is no reason now.
It's so dumb.
It actually is.
So dumb.
It just, there's choices that were made that should have never had been made.
Definitely.
It's just awful. And I don't know, there's just, and some of the costume changes, or like the costume ideas in the musical, they're amazing. And I get they tend to make things brighter because it's on stage, they need to be seen, whatever. But they're so boring.
They've made, you're right, they made the most boring choice. Masquerade is a fancy fucking dress party.
And it's all the outfits are stunning. And yes, there are some cardboard cutouts on the stage,
Yeah,
but even
some
they
mannequins.
look better.
Literally, because it's a fancy dress party to celebrate the new year. In the movie, it's not a fancy dress party. It's everyone's just. It was like come in your best black and white outfit.
Yeah.
So it's flat and boring and grey.
It's dull. And like, even if you watch clips of Masquerade from West End Live, you still see how amazing it is.
Yeah, and it's more interesting to give everyone a different outfit and a different
Yeah,
costume.
like the Phantom-
Because then she's meant to be scared throughout the whole masquerade because she thinks she keeps seeing the Phantom because everyone's in fancy dress.
Yeah.
So then when she does finally see him, it's even more hyped. Whereas in this, it's like completely fine.
And there's
no
some notes
threats.
that happen as the Phantom comes out on the stage, and it's like, how would you describe the music? Because it's so like,
it's like swelling
it's,
and like
it's like, it's heart-stopping, I think, because it's so bassy, it's so deep, and it's just like the same note over and over a couple of times, but it's the only note, only his music that's played, and the way he starts to sing it, it's like amazing.
It's
in
so
the show,
dramatic.
he's like, in the film, he just does like a magic trick.
Yeah.
He's there.
he's like poofs out of one trapdoor and poofs down another.
Literally.
It's dumb.
He actually is.
But yeah, the costumes are. One of my favourite costumes is after Notes Twisted in Every Way, she's in this blue dress, which she then puts on a cloak and goes to sing Wish You Were Somehow. Here again, it's a beautiful costume.
Stunning.
What doesn't make sense is they're at a fucking opera house and they're doing the Phantom's Don Juan, but they're all wearing these costumes that are for film, not theatre. So like, what is this being filmed for? Are you performing this on a stage? Because it doesn't look like you are, because your costumes are so small and filmic.
Yeah.
But you're performing it within the
It's meant to be
realm
on the
of
stage
the
still.
movie. Yeah, you're meant to be performing an opera, which is known for its lavish costumes and set pieces. It's almost pantomime.
Yeah. And like also in what's the, I can't remember the first name of the music. Hannibal.
Yeah.
The outfits are amazing in the show. What were they weren't even like
So they were trying to
reminiscent.
push this, like, the fact that they were doing like a rehearsal. So everyone was in like corsets and half dressed,
But it doesn't look right
character
because-
skirts. It just looks boring.
Plus, technically, they're meant to, that's the opening day, right? Their opening day evening. There
It
is,
should be ready.
they are going to be in costume.
Yeah.
As like everyone knows that on the day, you just keep doing it in costume.
Yeah.
Because
You do
if
your
you
first
don't,
run that morning.
If you
do
don't,
the first run that evening.
it's gonna go.
Yeah, you're fucked
horrible.
up. And so it just, they must have, I don't know, I'm just speculating, but it feels like they got excited because they were like, ooh, we have a film, so we can actually show people like going upstairs, which is something we never got to do on the theatre. So they were more excited about that than telling the story and getting it across in the most interesting way.
They were more excited about showing the back of house.
Yeah,
Christine in her bed.
stuff that they couldn't do in the stage show.
But there's no need to have it because
No.
it doesn't do anything to the story.
It
We all know
sucks.
what like a dressing room is like.
Yeah.
We all know. We can all gather what the back of the stage looks like.
Yeah.
We don't need to see it.
And
I wanna
see it all the time, covering everything.
constantly.
It's
It's so like it's just boring
yeah.
and there's no need and it just makes you want to fast forward it.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's just visually uninteresting and flat.
It's quite a long film. It's what 2 hours 40.
2 hours, 23 minutes.
There we go. 2 hours 23 minutes and half an hour of that I would say is what like shots of backstage,
Yeah.
stairs, hallways.
Yeah.
It's like no,
Roads,
there's no need.
rafters, boring set
stuff.
pieces.
Like no, there's just no need. Also, I noticed as well they introduced Raoul much early on.
Yeah, they do. Because they were like, oh, we're in a film, we can show him coming to the Paris Opera House in a carriage. Brilliant. We all wanted. That's what was missing. That's the one.
There's meant to be this like introduction of him later on where he's like halfway through the song he's like Christine.
He like stands up and spotlights on him, and it's all very dramatic and
and it's like,
revealing.
oh, who are you? Like,
But no.
is this a love interest?
And again, if they wanted to change that, make more of it. Do a thing. Don't just blah.
No, don't just be like, this is going to be her other love
Haha, we
interest.
can do a thing where we can shoot Patrick Wilson in a carriage. Hooray! Like, oh.
Also, why have they made it American?
I found it so odd rewatching it for the first time in years earlier. I was like, God, because even in the musical they try and put on these like British accents because they just sound a bit more legit. Sorry, America.
And no,
it's
but
all
it sounds a
weird.
bit more like French sounds posh, right?
Yeah.
And obviously,
Especially
in like
old.
in Britain and in France, Britain and America, they're not going to expect them to sound French.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're not in France, no one's going to understand. But American just sounds a bit more like.
It sounds really bizarre.
Yeah. It doesn't. To me, it doesn't make sense. If they're going to do anything, it has to be an English accent. And the thing is, Gerard Butler's Scottish. He can do it. He can do an English accent, right?
His accent, I didn't even know what his accent was, but it just, no offense, America, but it just sort of took away some of the seriousness.
Yeah.
Like, there are musicals where an American accent works beautifully.
Oh my God,
Most
yes.
musicals, and especially all the old ones.
Yes.
But this one, it just didn't, when even on the stage show, the Americans are putting on an English accent, even to their detriment with Sarah Bareilles' famous Order Your Fine Horses.
Yeah.
But like, American doesn't fit.
No, it really doesn't, and it just annoyed me because it just seemed more casual and less like.
That's it. It was less high stakes by them being like, oh, we were childhood sweethearts, and you're like, I don't care. Like, I don't care.
Versus, oh,
Where
we
were
were
you
childhood
brought up?
sweethearts.
You're in Paris.
Yeah.
And
right.
also because you've got Madame Giry and Minnie Driver, all of these fantastic actors putting on these French accents or these like enormously like foreign European accents, and then it's like, you think I'm so monsieur, the Phantom Opera, the ghost of the Phantom is here, and then it cuts to Emmy Rossum going, I'm scared of the Phantom, and you're like, oh man.
This is like a problem that I have with the show as well. Why has Meg not got a French accent?
Oh my gosh. Literally, she's been brought up in France by a woman who has a French accent, and Meg's like English, isn't she? Because she's played by like that woman.
Yeah.
I forget what her name is, but she was someone of note that wasn't an actor. She was like a model, I think.
Oh god, why? But there's just so many things that you're like, why? Like, don't get me wrong, a lot of shows have their problems.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, so many shows. But it's just, this, like, I wish they would have, like, customer feedback.
Yeah, and it's not like it hadn't been done before. It's not like they were treading new ground. The movie musical was massive in the 50s and 60s. It came back in the early 2000s with the likes of Chicago, which was based on a stage show.
Yeah.
Moulin Rouge, which was its own thing.
Cabaret.
But Chicago worked so well. Cabaret worked so well. Rocky Horror worked so well.
Oh my God.
They all made choices that differed from their stage show.
And like, for example, Cabaret is meant to be English accents, but half of them haven't got English accents and half American. They've all got American accents. That's fine. That's a stylistic choice that they decided to make. But in Phantom, that choice, half of them having
it's like it wasn't made.
Yeah,
it's like no one cared enough.
No, like you can't have half of them good European accents, and then the rest just like why are all of these Americans in France then anyway?
Yeah, it's so bizarre, and it doesn't fit into the, like, you can't sit here and be like, oh, it's a musical, you're meant to use your imagination. Fuck that, man. It's a story.
It's like,
tell it properly.
It's, if I was watching the show, I'd be like, okay, imagination.
Yeah.
You're meant to.
Because if you were watching a Broadway cast, arguably they would all have the same accent, and there would be a consistency there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like, in Les Mis especially, when, because I think they do British accents in America.
I've heard American casts, but everyone has been American.
Yeah. You can't, no, it doesn't make sense. It's just, watch the film, but then go watch the show afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for
coming
having
on.
me.
It was really fun to be able to rewatch this.
Yeah, it was.
I was obsessed with it.
Yep.
And now I loathe it. It's bizarre.
Yep. Now I feel like I need to go watch the show.
Yeah.
I need to get it out of my head.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything you want to plug? Where can we find you on social media?
I mean, it's just me ranting into the void on Twitter.
Amazing.
My Twitter is at Aylis, Aylis, and then an extra S and X.
Amazing.
Same for Instagram. I just post random crap on there about trying to get into theatre, being a plus size woman.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you have any projects upcoming?
Sadly not. Trying to get into it.
Yeah.
But no, that's it. Thank you for having me.
Of course, you're welcome. Why This Film is on Instagram at Why This Film. We're on Twitter at Why This Film. We are on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast, and we can email at whythisfilm@gmail.com. As always, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to my guests.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
We watched
The film and we talked about it, but now it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back again with another movie that makes you wanna ask why.